we're here today with Whitney. She is an elementary education major, and she'll be doing an ed teacher. We thought that she would really benefit from learning about our repurposed assistive technology device. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So basically our overall idea is integrating music into the classroom. So using, like, when you're teaching other subjects, we want to integrate music, get students engaged, and it's a great way to use UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning. So that way you can reach everybody's learning styles and everyone can learn at their own pace using different technologies. So today we're going to be talking about the benefits of our assistive device, the repurposed keyboard, specifically in mathematic instruction. We found research that supports this method, especially for students with disabilities, and we want to show you our assistive technology device along with how to use it in your own classroom. So first we're going to show you a short video about integrating music into the class.
Who is the number 2? Raise your instrument for number 2. Raise your instrument for number 1. Raise your instrument for number 3. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the answer? 6! Here you go. What was it?
The sum was 10.
Okay, and what was the sentence?
The add-ins.
3 plus 6 plus 1.
Everybody, look at this. Look at the camera. That was correct. Everybody give them a round of applause. 1, 2, here you go. You can tell me. Now, don't tell me the sum. Tell me the
Add-ins.
the add-in.
5 plus 3 plus 2.
5 plus 3 plus 2. Let's see. Ladies and
Very
gentlemen, give them a
good.
round of applause.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Go.
Oh, very good. What's the number, Kaylee?
Okay, so we thought this lesson would probably be best for kindergarten because it's kind of better for mostly 1 through 10. You can do it with other numbers, but one of the standards we found was kindergarten was solving real world problems that involve addition and subtraction within 10. So then it says using objects or drawings to represent the problem. So this keyboard could be your object to help solve the problem, or you could even give them copies of a keyboard, and that could be they could draw it out and write numbers and stuff like that on there.
Yes, because manipulatives are really important. We use manipulatives a lot in kindergarten, so.
Yeah, kindergartners love that. So I have the brochure online for you to look at, and then we also have the paper one here. So basically just talks about the repurposed AT device that we did. So we decided to focus on math because we were talking about how it's really hard for students to learn it and to teach it. So we focused on 3 building block concepts that little kids have to learn. So we did one-to-one correspondence, counting, and adding and subtracting, because without those, kids can't learn to do any of the other math skills later on. So we kind of liked using the piano because we said it was really motivating and way better than a pencil and paper worksheet, because students get really bored and that doesn't really support them in any way. So this is a visual that kind of helps them if they're struggling. So we kind of thought of it as being really helpful for students who have autism, but we also said it could be useful for any students, just because it's music and it's motivating, like we saw in the video that Lizzie showed earlier. So originally in our brochure we talked about it being used with a portable roll-up piano, because we have our benefits here. It's really cheap and easy, way easier to transport compared to this. Carried around the house for a little bit. You don't really have to like train someone to use it. You can just play notes. You don't have to learn how to play the piano. It's really interactive and practical, and like we said before, it's engaging. But we also saw some potential challenges. So some students might become dependent on the technology. So when it comes time to like do a worksheet or like take the tests and stuff, they might get lost without it. They may become over-reliant with counting on their fingers, because that's what we kind of do when they do the keyboard. So they might just start doing that and never grow out of it. They might get distracted on the keyboard and just start playing around instead of what they're supposed to be doing. And they might have trouble transferring the knowledge. So when they're using the keyboard, they might be able to count, but then when they're looking at it on the worksheet, they might not see the connection between the two. So with one-to-one correspondence, we kind of thought of using the keyboard. So like when kids are counting like a group of items, you know how they go like they see 3, but they'll go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when they press a key, they would be like 1, and they hear it once and they see that they're only pressing 1, and then they could do the same thing like 2. So they understand that like one key and one sound is only with one number. And then you can also use it for counting. So like if the kids could just sit there and be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you could like write the numbers on the keys too to help them if you wanted to. And then for addition and subtraction, we kind of thought like you could do like what's 3 plus 2. So then you'd be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 more. So then you could look and be like, oh, I have 5. Or you could same thing for subtraction. So you could do like what's 4 minus 1. So you would put like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then be like, okay, I have to take away 1. So now I'm left with 3. So we kind of thought of it like that, really visual for them to see. We're doing some examples and practice problems. Did you have any questions so far?
Yeah, so how many would you guys like buy if you were going to use this in a classroom? Would you have one for each student, or just one total, or what?
Well, they're like they're pretty cheap. They're like, I think like $40 on Amazon, so maybe buy a couple. Like I would say like maybe like 3 or 4, and then have them there for like any students who want to use them at different times.
Okay, so then wouldn't it be like pretty distracting if like everyone else is, if you're in like stations and they're supposed to be working on the keyboard and then like it's really loud for everyone else, or how would you deal with that?
Yeah, there's like a headphone thing, so if like the kid, like if you were doing like a lecture type thing, the kid could still sit there and like work on it, like have one headphone in and still listening to you, and then maybe like have them like at the back of the room or something, so like the other kids aren't watching them like mess around on the piano.
Okay, that's all.
Alright, so we're going to move into some practice problems. So let's try and do it together. We're going to do 3 plus 2. So I'll start down here and you can start right there. So we'll do 3 plus 2. And then how many do you have?
5.
So then the students can like either go all the way through once they've done that, and they can hear that there's 5, or they can know that they have 3 fingers and added 2 and they see 5.
So should they keep their fingers down so they can count how many keys are down, or do they just go?
I mean, it just depends on like what you would prefer as a teacher or what they would prefer, because if this is if you hear all of that, it's hard to differentiate the different sounds, but at the same time, if they see that all of their fingers are down, that could be an easy way for them to count. So you could kind of differentiate it based on what their kind of need is.
Okay.
So let's try one that's 3 minus 2. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, and then you take away 2. So
Wait, what?
So 1, 2, 3, and then take away 2. So then you'd have 1 left. Let's try. Let's do 1 plus 4. So they start with 1 thumb, and then you can remember that you can number them. So this could say 1 through 5. So they'll be able to see that their pinky's on 5, so they know that there's 5. And you could kind of talk to them about like which fingers to put where, because I know some kids will say this is 3 or this is 3. So just make sure you your whole class has the same idea on like what finger means what, just so they can use this all in the same kind of system, I guess, if that makes sense.
So how would you use it if you were adding with more than like 5 fingers?
More than 5, you could do like, you could start with a starter key, so say like this key is 1, and then you can go all the way up to like 20 or 30 or however many you feel is like pertinent to your lesson, and that way they can just do like 5 plus 7 and then add, so they'll leave their 5 hands or their 5 fingers here and then add up 7 more. They'll be able to get it. So you can do that with addition and subtraction. Just make sure like when you're teaching, just make sure that when you're teaching you have like really explicit instruction so they know what their expectations are, what their goals are. They know what their expectations are, what their goals are, and like how to use the device, because that's the most important, otherwise it's not as effective.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to move into doing some independent practice. You're going to be doing these by yourself. So we're going to do some both addition and subtraction problems. So the first one we have for you is 4 plus 1.
So where do you want me to start?
You can start, this could be your 1.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then plus 1. So then it's 5 down.
Right, so we know you know the answer, we just want to make sure you know like how you would do it with kids.
Yeah.
So 5 minus 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. And then there's 3 down.
Yeah, good job. So then 1 plus 2.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yep. How about 4 minus 3?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Right, so then you
One
only have
down.
1 left. Plus 2.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we just ran through some addition and subtraction, but what if you had like a student who was having trouble with like the whole 1-to-1 matching? So if they saw like a group of like 3 pencils, they would just point to like 1, 2. Because
They just group, yeah.
they know how to count, but they don't know like one thing represents one number. So
Okay.
how would you explain that?
So you could just go start on the starter key and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, so this kind of works best if you're like working, I would say like kindergarten kids, like doing just like 1 through 10.
Right.
Yeah, so they could like see and hear like only
One
like
beat.
1 beat and like 1 finger per key. So if they knew if they saw like 3, they couldn't just be like 1, 2. Like that wouldn't make sense.
Okay, so one point that we wanted to make was the fact that obviously some, you can't, for some standardized testing or other testing, you can't bring this whole keyboard into the testing center or whatever it may be. So we kind of thought that something you're going to need to be like equipped with is how to transition the students from the piano to a test or to a worksheet or whatever. So one thing we thought of doing is like once they've mastered this and kind of been able to really understand the assistive device, you could maybe create like a handout that has like a printed piece of, or printed worksheet of like a keyboard. That way they could like see it and kind of remember this and transfer it to pencil paper.
Yeah.
Then like you could gradually like go from there using like other, like while you're doing the keyboard you have written down the equations that they need to do and they just have the keyboard as like a reference.
Okay.
And then
So like another kind of number line, like on their desk.
yeah, so that way they can kind of gradually like you can wean them off of this. And I thought that this was a self-directed assistive technology device because you don't necessarily need to tell the student when they need to be using it. So like you said, if you're doing stations with it, that's fine, they'll use it. But if you're doing like whole group instruction and some students think, okay, I'm having trouble with this, I need to go over to the piano and figure it and like do the piano along with this tutor. So just like making sure that they are, self-monitoring and knowing when they need it and when they don't, when they just need the reference sheet or when they need the actual computer or keyboard,
Right.
or when they don't need it at all.
Okay.
Well, thanks so much, Whitney. You're a great learner. Do you have any last minute questions or anything about our device and stuff?
Nope, I think I could use this in my classroom for sure.
Awesome. Thanks.